Sarah, is Isaiah's story a cautionary tale for other NBA players contemplating playing through injury, especially with the bright lights of the postseason?
I absolutely think it's something to be aware of and be conscientious of. And I think with Kawhi Leonard, for as much attention and focus on his injury occurred throughout the course of last season and even up until now, players know their own body. Now, I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know if we do. We're not doctors here with Isaiah Thomas about if he hadn't played in the if you'll remember, he got injured 2 months left in the regular season. He got hurt Game 6 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, continued to play through that, and then was knocked out essentially in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference final. I'm not sure, and I don't know if they had determined what point it was that actually made Isaiah Thomas's injury to the point it's at. He waited. He didn't have surgery up until the point of July because they were trying to rehab through what he was going through rather than opting for surgery. But long story short on all of that with Isaiah Thomas, there's nothing that he can change now. And he's at a point with Denver where he thought he would be signing a max deal this offseason. He thought he was going to be a player. We all remember the Brinks Trucks sandals, but instead he had one offer from a place of where he played for Coach Mike Malone in Sacramento. It's a veterans minimum deal. But what I liked most about his conversation with Woj, that he said that is in the past. And I'm putting that behind me. I'm moving forward because he needs to, because he has an opportunity to show what he can do. In that season with Boston, he was top 5 in MVP voting. He was a top 3 scorer in the league. So to show people where his health is at, the type of player he's at, I think is very important for him in this point in his career.
Here's the sports tragedy of the Isaiah Thomas situation. Again, I say sports tragedy. He didn't have to play the way he did the 2017 season in Boston. The year before in Boston, he was 22 points a game. His last year in Sacramento, he was 20 points a game and a good three-point shooter every step of the way. Like, I don't think anyone thought, listen, Isaiah Thomas, all of a sudden, now he's a 27, 28-point-a-game, top 5 MVP guy. It was a perfect storm of situations. That Boston team didn't have any other guys who could reliably score the basketball. Tatum's not on the team yet. Obviously, Kyrie's not there. Jaylen Brown's a rookie. But if he's just a 20-point-a-game guy, he's still, maybe he's not a max deal, but there's a big gulf between the max and the minimum, and he ended up with the minimum. I hadn't heard him say one of the reasons he played was to help him deal with the grief of his sister passing, and that's an intriguing wrinkle to this because it makes you understand more so why for him in the moment he wanted to do it, other than simply, I'm the best player on the team, we think we make the NBA Finals. Well,
and with that being said, and CC, you as a player can answer this, I'm not sure if he, in the moment, and regardless of what the doctors were telling him, he's playing in the playoffs. He's just had a near MVP-type season. Do you think as an athlete in that moment, despite the pain, that you would be able to think about the long term, the long view, big picture, and not say that I want to be out there to help my team compete?
No one in real time has a picture of the future. So what you do is you make the best decision based on the medical advice that's been given to you for that moment. And we can all sit and live our lives looking in the rearview mirror. There was a time and point with the Vikings where I had tore up my shoulder, and I was trying to stay healthy. Plus, also, I was on an unbelievable pace to potentially break the NFL record. I ended up playing that season, and the next season, the season after that, I immediately had shoulder surgery, and my shoulder is still wrecked to this day. It was a price that I decided to do. These are parts of being a professional athlete. Part of the reason why we see these great things, these great feats, is because of the things they overcome. Now, if he had gotten through this, we'd be talking about, man, Isaiah Thomas, oh, man, he's great. This is part of it. You have to take care of your body. Your body is your moneymaker. So you have to make the best decisions for your long-term health. Because if you're not healthy, and of course he made the wrong decision, but being an undersized player, I don't think he went about this the right way. You are a small guy. Like, your body is more important than a big guy, because a big guy we're going to give more chances to. If a small guy gets hurt, especially with a leg, a hip injury, oh, man, it could potentially end his career. So I don't think that he thought about that. You cannot live your life as an athlete because you'll always be pushing through. That's what coaches do, teach you how to push through. And there's a difference between an injury, all right, and an ailment. All right, he was really, really injured, and him continuing to play brought long-term effects.
The other thing he said to Wojnarowski in that article was that he'd go back to Boston if given the opportunity. Are you surprised, Sarah, there's not more resentment towards the team that not only he played for, but then eventually traded him?
Well, if we remember, there was a lot of resentment when it happened.
At the time.
And even when he went to Cleveland. And I believe throughout the course of his time in Cleveland and in that locker room, he carried that bitterness with him. But an entire year has passed. I think he now looks at the landscape. He looked at the market, realizing, again, he had one deal, veterans minimum, from a Denver Nuggets team. And so absolutely, for a business decision, and even personally, he wants to play. And so Boston, he understands what he did there, how beloved he was by the fans, but more than anything, Brad Stevens in the system and the fit and how good that team is going to be. And so it didn't surprise me at all that if the opportunity arose there, which it did not, that he would take that.
Yeah, of course, he had to say that. He had to repair his image also. But we talk about the injury, him deciding to play in the playoffs. Was that part of him getting over the grief of his sister? That's something we can never determine. So we shouldn't even be trying to understand that aspect. But his decision to play there was a bad decision. Once they had traded him to Cleveland, him coming back in Cleveland was another bad decision. And that's something that he's got to be able to live with. He didn't have to come back to Cleveland as soon as he did. And not only was he still hurt and ended up hurting himself again, but his overall personality, who he was as a person, it took some hits. Yeah. So this was a tough transition for a guy that made a couple decisions that will alter his career. He will never get back in that type of light. And to do this type of article, it's a feel-good article, all right? He signs a veteran minimum. It doesn't make sense for him to say, no, I wouldn't go back to Boston.
He needs the whole league available to him. He's not...
And he needs to repair a certain part of his image, too.
And he also knows, if he were being very specific, hey, listen, Boston might, a year from now, have an opening at the point guard position. Like, he hears the same rumors about Kyrie we hear. He knows how good he was with Brad Stevens. One last note for me on Isaiah Thomas. I guess one of the reasons I root for him is because his story is such an unexpected one. Sarah, you and I a couple weeks ago went to watch high school basketball, right?
Yeah.
And we saw a kid on this team my son used to play for who is Isaiah Thomas's size, playing against high schoolers. Now, he's going to be a D1 player, but we saw how much harder he had to work against high school players to get to the rim, to get his shot off, to do anything, because he's 5'7.5", 5'8". This guy was the last pick of the draft at that size, and he almost won a scoring title in the NBA. And 12 months later, he has one offer, and it's almost a courtesy offer because Mike Malone coached him, and in Denver, they're not playing any defense anyway. They're just going to try to outscore people. Like, that's not how this story's supposed to end. And not all stories have a happy ending. I get that. It doesn't always end the way it's supposed to end. But I hope Isaiah Thomas has another chapter. It's not going to be a max contract chapter, but a 3-year, $24 million chapter would be better than the one he's tracking towards right now.
At 5'7", he's already had a remarkable career. Okay? Remarkable. To be at that height and to be playing in the NBA, it's remarkable. It's also unfortunate, but we are a collection of our decisions.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.